So this next video is on histograms, which is about as close as you're going to get to Instagram and maths. Instagram, histogram. So when I did GCSE maths, I used to dislike histograms. They were my least favourite graph, and I'm not really quite sure why, because I went back over it today, and it's honestly fine. It just seems a bit of a weird idea at first. So I'm just going to run through a bit of theory, and then we're going to do one exam question just to have a little practice. So a histogram, it shows frequency density, and this I think is what the term that people dislike, because it's not frequency, it's frequency density. So what is frequency density? Now this is math, so of course we have an equation for it. So frequency density is the frequency divided by the class width. So if we rearrange that equation, it'll be much clearer when we look at it on a graph. If we rearrange that, we have that the frequency is equal to the frequency density multiplied by the class width. And that, on our graph, is equal to the area. So the way this graph works is like this. You always have frequency density along this axis. So previously, all our graphs before have gone like this. You have something and then you plot the frequency, so how many of them there are. But this time you're plotting the frequency density, and as we've worked out, the frequency in this is the area. So if I plot this, instead of plotting the frequency, so how many I have, I plot, so this area is the frequency instead. And that seems a little bit confusing until you just use this formula, and it's actually pretty easy. So let's have a go at an example using the information we've just learnt. Okay, so here we have a table shows information about the speed in miles per hour of 120 cars. Then it's giving you this group, so there are 6 cars that go between the speed of 40 and 55 miles per hour, 10 cars that go between 55 and 60 miles per hour, etc. Then it says part A, on the grid, draw a histogram in the table. So first piece of information we just learned was that frequency density always goes along the side, so that's what you plot. So that means we're going to actually have to work out the frequency density using this table here. So we know that the frequency density is the frequency divided by the class width. So I'm going to create another column down here of the frequency densities. So the frequency density is the frequency divided by class width. So for this one I have 6, the frequency, divided by the class width, and this is going from 40 to 55, so that is a class width of 15. And that gives me an answer of 0.4. For the next one I'm going to have 10 frequency divided by the class width, and we've got 55 to 60, so that is by 5, and that gives me 2. This next one I have the frequency, which is 46, divided by the class width, which is 60 to 65, which is 5, which is 9.2. Then the next one I have 40, I'm going to go up here, I have 48, the frequency, divided by the class width, 65 to 75, so be really careful, the class widths do actually change. That one's now 10, so that is going to be 4.8. And then the last one I have the frequency, divided by the class width, so 90 to 75, or 75 to 90 is 15, and that gives 0.4. So these are the frequency densities, so these are the FDs I've called them, what we actually plot. So now all we need to do is draw the histogram, and we've got the nice part of deciding what to put on each of the axes and stuff, which I don't really enjoy doing. So I've got to go from a frequency density, my smallest is 0.4 up to, let's say, 10. So now I need to do the class width, so I'm going from 40 to 90. Now this is quite nice and simple because we've got the frequency density and the classes. So the frequency density of the first class was 0.4, so if we go up to 0.4, so that's going to be up here, and then our class is going from 40 to 55, so here. Do this with a ruler. Where's my ruler? Okay, if we look at the next one, so we're plotting the frequency density of 2, and we're going from 55 to 60, so That's the second one. The next one we have frequency density of 9.2. So if we go to there, we can have 9.2. And that is going from 60 to 65. So we're going from 60. The next one we've got a frequency density of 4.8. So 4, 2, 4, 6, 8. And that is going from 65 to 75. And our final one has a frequency density of 0.4, and that is from 75 to 90. So that would be your histograms. As you can see, they have different widths, and normally for all the other graphs you would have seen before, they have the same width. And as I showed you before, you can rearrange this formula to show that the frequency is the area of a bar. So what we're going to do is a quick check. So I'm going to look at this bar here, and I'm going to say the frequency is the area. So what is the area of that bar? We've gone across 5 here, multiplied by, and then we went up by 9.2. And we get an answer of 46. So we're saying the frequency is the area, which is 46, which, yes, it is there. So that's a quick check. We're not done with the question, however, because it says work out an estimate for the number of cars over 70 miles per hour. So that means you want the frequency, the number is frequency, of cars over 70 miles per hour. So you want all the ones that were 75 to 90, but then you also want ones that go, and then you have to cut this in half and take those. So I've just shown you, I've told you using the formula and proved it to you from this data that the area is a frequency. So an estimate for the number of cars over 70 miles per hour, so we need the frequency over 70. So we have this area here, which we know is the frequency of 75 to 90, so that is 6, plus, and then we need the area of this bit here, which is going from 70 to 75, so that has width 5 and height is going up to 4.8. So if we add those two together, we'll get the area of that, and that should give us the correct answer. So our estimate is that there are 30 cars going above 70 miles per hour. Fast cars. Are you with a fast car? I got a ticket. So that is everything you need to know about histograms. Basically, you need to remember this formula. Frequency density equals frequency over class width, and the fact frequency is plotted up there, and then you should be alright. Make a little frequency density column here, and then you know you can plot it nice and easily. If they make you estimate things, you take the area, so area is frequency. It's also super important.